Hello everyone and welcome to the second look of my Halloween series this year. Today we are doing Emily from The Corpse Bride. This is one that I've been waiting to do. I've had the costume since last year, but for some reason just never got to it last year. Mostly because this is a full paint. So let's get started. I'm going to start out with this very light blue that I swear is the perfect like Tim Burton blue out of my cream face paint palette. And you'll notice we have a bit of a scenery change for today's video. It took 3 layers of paint to get it very opaque like you see on my face. So I had to actually go in the bathroom because I kept having to check, and doing the body paint in a hand mirror was just not an option with where I have my other setup. So we're in the bathroom so I can be in front of the giant vanity and have all these lights on me so I could really see how thick I needed to make my paint and where I was missing. So after I filled in my entire face with blue paint, I went down the middle of my neck, leaving a space right under my chin, kind of like the bottom part of my jaw, just where my tongue sits. I left that open and then painted my chest and half, I would say, like half an inch down, maybe a whole inch down of my shoulder blue. So after I got my base of blue done, I went in with some micellar water on a Q-tip and just removed the paint in the little area that I want to be the part where her teeth poke out. I think this is also where I think at one point the worm comes out of her mouth before it comes out of her eye, or maybe it's the other way around. But I decided to put teeth here. So I took the back end of a makeup brush with some white paint and I just dotted in those teeth. Since she is claymation, it's like a stop motion movie, her teeth are not like anatomically correct shape. So I just made them kind of round and put them into that space, which we will fill in later. But I just wanted to get the white laid down before I started doing any kind of shading. So now that we got that done, I filled in my eyelids and eye sockets with that blue paint as well, just doing 1 layer as kind of a primer. My lids don't need as many layers just because I didn't want it to crease, so I kind of waited to do that till I was done with everything else. Now I'm going in with black paint to fill in all the blank space that we left. This is to create that illusion of being that super stick thin kind of Tim Burton figure. So I went in that space along my jaw and under my chin and filled that in with black, as well as the space on the sides of my neck. Right now it's not going to look like a whole lot, but when you actually put the wig on and the costume, and if you were to sit in front of a dark background, it actually creates a really cool effect. If you guys go back, oh gosh, probably 7 Halloweens ago, I did Jack from Nightmare Before Christmas in a really similar way. So you can always check that out if you want to see how I did that illusion for him. So now I am just using that black paint and making it really opaque. I used a foundation brush for this, so it would just put the paint on a little bit faster. But I just went along those lines I created and really carved everything out to get Emily's shape. So I just really filled that in. Then I went to my teeth and just outlined them all with black to create that mouth. So just going around all the little white shapes that we did before. And of course, lining the area on the edges. You don't need to make this super dark. It can be a little bit lighter than you would want to make the neck and kind of shoulders, because this is on her face, so there's going to be some other shading that aids in it. But just be really careful when you're going around your whites that you don't get any black in there, because it is going to mess up your teeth. But make sure those lines are really crisp on the edges. I used an angled liner brush for this so that my lines would be nice and straight and really full. I did have to go over it a few times to get the opacity that I wanted, but it turned out really good once it was all together. And it is kind of I would say it looks like a really elongated uppercase D is the best way to make that mouth shape. Now for the eyes, we have to pack on that super blue cobalt, I don't know if it's eyeshadow that she's wearing or if it's just the way they colored her eyelids, but for us it's eyeshadow. So I went in with this cobalt blue and I started packing this on because I've used this shadow enough times to know she is patchy and she is chalky, and that is why I only use her for Halloween, because she's great for these kinds of looks, but every day, not so much. So I went in with a big fluffy brush, packed that all on, and then just lightly blended out those corners so it gives us that nice round eyelid shape that she has. Everything with Emily's face is fairly round except for her bone structure. So everything with the eyes, think of blending it up and around and not out and across like you normally would. Going under the eye, I'm taking that same blue on a pencil brush and creating that big lower lid that she has, just to create a really big eyeball effect. So basically we're bringing the corner of the eye socket down. I did not go all the way under my lids with this. I just brought it down to about midway. Now with that same blue, we are going to use it to contour. So Emily has a kind of pointy nose, so I went into my nostrils and started creating those more pointy, just kind of long slits that she has, and making everything look just a little bit less human-like there. So I just rounded out the end of my nose, and then right along the sides, I contoured it and brought it up into that eyelid so that my nose looks very long and very skinny, because her nose is super skinny. Because while Emily is somewhat skeletal, like her ribs and things are kind of decayed, her face is mostly together. So you have to find a good medium between like a monstrous skeleton and like a very beautiful Edwardian Victorian era woman. So it should be glamorous but also spooky. Now for the cheeks, I'm contouring with that blue again, and I am using an eyeshadow brush since I want this to be a much sharper contour than we normally would. So I'm going right in the very hollows of my cheeks, right underneath that cheekbone. And then I am bringing it down all the way into the hollows of, like if you were whistling, the kind of hollows that form in your cheek along your mouth. And that's why I make this kind of whistling face. That way I can see my natural contours and bring that all the way down around to my chin. Now when you're contouring with the side that you already put the teeth on, you're going to want the contour to go through that, but you don't want to actually drag the brush through it. So I start at my chin and bring it up to the corner of the mouth and lightly dust it along the top and then up into the cheekbone, and then blend everything out. This way it just looks like that piece of cheek is missing, and it doesn't create an uneven contour, because since she is a cartoon character and she's sculpted, you want to be as symmetrical as you can possibly get. Going back in with that same shadow and the same brush, we're just going to go along the hairline. This is just to create that more sculpted effect, like I said, giving her that kind of rounded out top of her head. And this is also going to help with the wig. Since the wig is blue, it's going to give us more of a shadow and more of that hairline effect. You can kind of see here that I have to blend it really well because the paint does like to move around and expose some skin. So I do have to kind of go back in a few times and kind of retouch and get everything nice and smooth and perfect. But you guys get the gist of what the effect should look like here. And I don't have my wig cap on, and I always end up having to adjust my hairline once I have my actual wig cap on, just to make sure the shape is in the right place. Now under the eye, I'm going in with white eyeliner. I save this towards the end because white tends to just get taken over by whatever paint you have on your face. So I would say if you're doing this look, wait to put that white on until you either get where you're going or right until you leave, like walk out the door. So just a little white eyeliner in that space under my eye. And then on the upper lid, I just did a regular black liner with no wing. Again, this is just to give our eye a little more shape and dimension. You don't want it to be super thick, because then you're going to lose that roundness that we created beforehand. So just do that on both eyes. You don't need a wing. You don't need anything crazy. You could also use a pencil for this if you wanted. I just went with my liquid because it's what I had on hand. For eyelashes on the bottom lid, I'm just going in with that black eyeliner and adding a few little lines because she does have thick lower lashes. And then, of course, throwing on regular old mascara, and you can see how big and round the eyes look just with that blue and the shapes that we've created. It is as Tim Burton-y as you can get without painting a secondary eyelid, which you could always do. I just opted not to this time. Then I went back in with that blue on that same eyeshadow brush and started contouring my body. So with our neck being thin, you're going to want to create kind of new lines of where your neck would have those natural contours. I go right along where you can feel your vocal cords and create that as the actual main part of the middle of my throat. And then the other part would be like your deltoid, like where that connects to your shoulder, if that makes sense. So it's just creating more of an illusion of where things are connected and where they are not. And then I just blend that out with the sponge I use to paint my chest and body with. And then going in on my chest, Emily has a very defined little V kind of right at the base of her neck. And I'm guessing this is where kind of, I mean, you can feel it on your own body. There's a little bit of a dip there. I don't know what bone that is. I think it's like where your clavicle connects. That is like, I guess, the very start of your breastbone or the very start of your sternum. Someone who took anatomy, let me know. But you're just going to want to create that little V, and then I shaded in underneath my collarbones because obviously her collarbones are very visible because I'm pretty sure in the movie you can see them through her skin. So I just shaded in with that little blue there as well. I would say a 2. One thing that I did not have that you definitely need if you're doing a big paint like this is some powder. If you have a big thing of Airspun, which I just got for the rest of my videos, use it. After you do the first base of blue, just powder yourself down, and then you won't have as much of this transfer as I have when contouring my chest and stuff. It did create some natural kind of highlights with my skin poking through because I'm so pale, but just for future reference. Now for the brows, I went in with a little bit of black paint and a little bit of that blue shadow on angled brushes. And the best way to do her eyebrows is to make a really sad face where your brows kind of lift up in the middle, and then make a upward motion and then bring them swooping down and over and out. So her brows point up in the center part, which helps make her look really sad, and then you just kind of drag them to your natural brow over the arch and down. I went with the black. You could use a darker blue as well, but I think the black really complemented the look overall. It makes them a little bit darker. It makes them stand out among all the blues that we already used so far. And then you just want to make sure they're pretty even and thick. For lashes, I used a pair of Kiss Natural lashes. These are their wispies. And I put them towards the end of my eye and made sure I angled the end of them down. Not only does this help with the round eye shape, but it also helps make your eyes look really sad because everything just looks downturned. For lips, Emily has pretty pink lips, and every tutorial I've seen, people do her lips very rosy. So I went with this rose liquid lip. You could use really any kind of pink. I've seen some people do them blue, but I think pink is the way that they are portrayed in the movie. So this is the wig. It is not the exact same shade of blue she has, but I think it would be as close to the blue as you could get without it looking too like electric and neon. And then here is my dress. I ordered this off of, I want to say, Amazon last year, but I thought it was a perfect corpse bride dress with the little butterflies. And then right there, I thought I was falling through the center of the earth because I stepped off the side of the carpet. I was fine though. But yeah, here's the costume. Is like the cutest little wedding dress situation. I thought it was super cute, and I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.